Coming up next on Parent Connection, a conversation with the Assistance League of the Chesapeake. Welcome to Parent Connection. Today we're going to have a conversation about the Assistance League of the Chesapeake. First, thank both of you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Well, my name is Lynn Hopkins. I am president of Assistance League of the Chesapeake, and originally from South Africa. We arrived 22 years ago in this wonderful country, and we're now citizens. And I have been involved in Assistance League for about 10, 11 years, and it's just the most wonderful volunteer organization. So I'm happy.
Great.
And I'm Marie Bossie, and originally from Boston, Massachusetts, a nurse in my former life, if you would, and I've been part of Assistance League for 12 years. I served as president and vice president of philanthropic and sort of other roles, and presently I'm the chairperson for the Kids in Need uniform program.
But for our viewers who don't know what the Assistance League of the Chesapeake is, first tell us, what is the Assistance League?
Assistance League is obviously a volunteer organization. We aim to be a friend to the community in whichever way they need us to be. We have some signature programs, which you'll hear about a little later. But we just have a group of ladies who love to give. They love to give of their time and their energy, and they serve mainly children in schools, and we also serve some of the seniors in the county.
And how did Assistance League get started?
Well, the history of Assistance League National, it's a national organization, is actually in 1890. Somebody called Anne Banning decided that she was going to get some society ladies together and do some charity work. So they started, helping people in the community. And then in 1906, there was the San Francisco fire and earthquake. And of course, there were great needs that developed out of that. And so this little group of ladies really got serious about food and clothes and raising money for those in need. And then, of course, they continued doing it. And in 1919 was World War I. And again, they ramped up their efforts in sewing and providing food and just assisting people who were, part of the fallout, the social fallout from World War I. And they continued through the years. In 1957, I think it was, Ruth Ann Montgomery had her own little organization going called the Clothes Closet. She was a school teacher, and she decided that she didn't want to see anymore the kind of disparity that came between the children that had and the children that had not. And she started, got a group of women together, and they would get used clothing, and in a garage they would wash and iron and prepare these clothes to give to the children. Then, which they did successfully, but they still felt for children wearing used clothing there was a disparity. And so they started having luncheons, and the price for admission was a piece of new clothing. They then joined the group that was the beginning of Assistance League, which had started in 1890, and became Operation School Bell, which is what we work with today. So because Assistance League formally started in 1919 with the World War I effort, it's actually this year 100 years old.
Wow.
The first chapter is 100 years old. So
now, how did you actually get started here in Anne Arundel County?
Well, Marie was a really founder member. She needs to.
Well, around 2000, there were two gals who moved here from California, and both of them had been in different Assistance League chapters. And so the national group asked them if they would be willing to try to start a chapter here. And they did, and they were very successful. And both of them served as president and bylaws chair and developed the whole chapter. So that's how we got started. We were chapter 114 when we became a chapter in 2006. So there are over 120 chapters across the country. We are the furthest east chapter and the furthest north. So the nearest chapter to us is in Virginia.
Well, you certainly do a lot for the schools. So tell us about some of the programs that you're doing in our schools now.
Okay, well, we have a multiple group of volunteers who work at several of the schools, Georgetown East and Annapolis and Mead Heights Elementary are probably the schools that are our signature schools. They're the schools we worked with originally. Both of them started with guest reader programs where our volunteers would go in and read to the students' classes, and then it sort of grew from that, and we have volunteers who go in and help teachers once a week, once a month, or those kinds of things. Our uniform program, which is sort of our signature program, allows us to provide uniforms right now to 7 schools. 6 are elementary schools, Georgetown East, Tyler Heights, Germantown, Mills Parole, Mead Heights, and Van Bocklin. And last year, we actually started serving MacArthur Middle on Fort Meade because they seem to have great needs. So right now we're servicing 7 schools. And this year that we're in now, we'll probably give about 3,000 uniforms away this year. The program just keeps growing. And
well, I love the idea of how the Assistance League started using used clothes, and then the whole concept of the disparity, we want new clothes, and now it's switching to us with new uniforms, because we know that just like school supplies, when you first start, you go back to school, you love that newness and everything, and what you provide to our students with those new uniforms, they look just like everyone else if their families are struggling with the cost of clothing, but they have these new uniforms, and you don't just give them random sizes. I love the idea that you go in and measure the students, make sure they're custom to them.
Absolutely. And it's really the counselors and the teachers and the administration who identifies the students that need the uniforms. So it isn't our organization choosing. So they identify the students. We go in twice a year in September and then again in January, and we measure the students and provide the size that they need. And they each get khaki pants, navy blue shirts, and a navy blue sweatshirt. They get underwear and socks and a bag of toiletries that are donated mostly by the volunteers in our organization, as well as some of the dentists in the community.
Well, that's a huge gap that we would not have if it weren't for your organization. I mean, those schools, that means so much to our students and their families, not just the things. Let's talk about some of the other programs that you're doing in the schools. I mean, we know the uniform program is so big, and reading to the students, just being regular volunteers is great, but what are some of the other things you're doing?
Well, one that comes to mind is the Pen Pal program, where one of our ladies, actually a group of them, encourage children and manage the process of these children writing letters to children at other schools, even in other countries. There's one in India, a school that has connected, and they write letters and receive letters back. There's another one in Virginia, and closer to home. But it's just exciting for the children to hear from others their age who have the same kind of issues in life, and yet they're in a totally different town or city or country. And so that's been a really successful program.
And that's nice to hear that that's still going on. I know when I was in 5th grade, I think we did Pen Pals, and we were so excited to get those letters, but it kind of skipped a generation almost where they weren't doing them for quite a while. So that's exciting.
Well, it's emails now, so.
Right, emails, a little differently, a little faster responses probably than we got, but
But these children write actual letters, so.
They do, And then, of course, another program is our Puppeteers, our Kids on the Block program, and we have a group of dedicated volunteers. They practice in between their presentations, and they go to the schools to the 2nd graders, and they do events. And right now they're doing bullying, and and they get great reviews from the teachers and from the students. So so that's a big program. And then there's what's called the Chesapeake program at Mead Heights, which we've become very involved in. Paula Sparks, one of our volunteers, she not only gets our Assistance League volunteers to participate, but she belongs to a singing group, the chorale, and so she gets some of her members there to come in, and they read with the kids, and what they're trying to do is improve their reading comprehension, and that's been a big program, and hopefully that will continue to grow.
And we do know that that's so significant to a child, that reading comprehension, to make sure that they're understanding what they're reading, and having that adult sit with them and do that is so important. And sometimes they may not have parents at home that are able to do it, you know, whether it's a work scheduling thing or multiple children, so they can do as much as they can. But it's always nice when our students see there's other people in the community that really care about them as well.
Yes.
And it helps the teacher too, because you know you can tell a child to read a book for homework and they'll flip through and you wonder actually how much has been read. But in this Chesapeake program they have a set of questions that go with each book, that the volunteers ask the children questions about the book that they were supposed to have read, and it's really tests comprehension, which is great for the teachers to know, you know, what they need to focus on. So,
well, it helps with the comprehension. It also helps with attendance, because we know when students have volunteers coming in to work with them, whether it's mentoring through Chesapeake program or being there, they want to make sure that they're there. They don't want to miss that opportunity. So we see that they're always present when they have a volunteer coming in as well.
That's good to know.
And then I guess one of the other programs too is that right now, you know, we give books to some of the schools at the end of the year. So, and it's part of their summer reading program. So we get the list from the reading specialist and the counselors, and then we provide a book to each student when they finish school at the end of the year. And Georgetown and Mead Heights, the 5th graders also get a special book when they graduate and move on. So that's for their summer reading program. So that's a big one.
It's wonderful that some of these children will say, this is the first book I've ever owned, or the first book I have. And it's so rewarding to know that we could play that role in their lives of giving them something that they've never had before.
Well, it is a need that we really know that is out there, and kind of look to the community to fill, because that reading library, some of us take it for granted that our children had books. We were able to give it to them so that every child has books in their home, but that's just not the case.
It's absolutely.
So it is huge, and the whole idea of getting that new book too, I think that's it's not just a used book somebody's giving it, it's third book, only theirs, they're the first person to own it. So we see that building that library at home is so important, because they will read if they have the books in the house.
Absolutely.
So that is vital to the reading program, and I know that I'm sure our reading teachers are happy to give you a list of books that they would like you to provide.
For this summer.
So you have so many wonderful programs going on, and we benefit from them so much. But tell me, how does your organization fund this? Because I'm sure as people are listening, they're thinking, how do you raise the money to do all of this? Because I can tell you, just the uniforms alone is so significant. But then the books and the toiletries and the puppet shows, that's a lot. So tell us how you do that.
Well, wherever we can. We have a budget each year, obviously, for the uniforms, the main part of our budget. And we used to have, you know, fundraising events, but we just felt that it was a lot of work and took time away from the ladies who were doing the volunteering and wasn't giving us the benefit we needed. And so now we apply for grants, and we've been successful with a number of them, which is fantastic. One of the very significant grants we get, we are only permitted to get it for 3 years, and then we have to stand back. And so we have all hands on deck at that time to, you know, get the money from elsewhere. And we've had some great opportunities. You know, there's a lot of restaurants that will give us a day where they say, anyone who comes in this day, we will give you a percentage of the takings. Some do that for just a meal, and you know, our members go to to eat dinner there and have a nice social time as well. So that's a good way to do it. And then our members are just really generous in their time and whatever they can. So that's how we do it.
And that's what I was going to ask. Besides grants, how do you fill that need?
We have, well, we also have a raffle drawing once a year, and we raise probably about $8,000 from that, and it's usually a trip to somewhere. But also internally, our volunteers, we have a pledge program, and so each member donates so much every year, and that's been really significant. And a couple of years ago, we tried to do a GoFundMe page, and that worked pretty well.
It was really successful.
So we try different things, and we know we're competing with many, many large philanthropic organizations, and that's always a challenge. So our grants are pretty significant for us.
And I wanted to say just that our members are not obligated to Finance Assistance League. We just appreciate their time, but you know, we also value anything anyone can spare.
Well, I know I've heard when I attended one of your meetings, people spoke about just talking about the Assistance League out at other events that they were at, and then you would receive checks from people who thought your work was so significant and they wanted to be a part of it. And that really speaks volumes to the integrity of the organization and what you're doing as well.
That's true. Well, Zips Dry Cleaners in Annapolis has agreed to put up one of our signs, and if you go in there's a huge sign about our Kids in Need program, and somebody just the other day was standing in the line and decided they were going to donate some money to us just by seeing that sign, so we were very grateful for that.
Well, that's always good when word of mouth is kind of talking about it.
Right, right. And I think one of the other great things is also that we're not only proud of, but we really depend on, is our partnership with Old Navy. And Old Navy has just been very significant in providing the uniforms to us that really reduce, you know, prices. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to give as many uniforms as we are.
And the employees giving time. You know, it's an awful lot of time to sort through all these uniforms and process them for us, and they're happy.
Right.
Well, I did want to talk a little bit more about the KIN, K-I-N,
Kids in Need.
Kids in Need. We use all these little abbreviations for it now, but about that and how it does grow every year. I mean, it started with a few hundred and then went to a couple thousand, and now
we're probably this year we'll probably tip over 3,000 uniforms this year.
And that's just amazing, the cost, like you said, that's involved. But the other thing is just what people don't understand, the back, like where are you going to store all of these? Getting that partner with Old Navy, that's wonderful.
Right, but our partnership with the Board of Ed and the ability to use the warehouse to store all of our uniforms. And
I don't know what we would do.
I mean, I don't know what we would do. When we only did a couple of hundred, we used to use members' basements and, you know, bring all the stuff in, but with what we do now, there's just no way we can do that.
And the sorting space as well.
Yes, and sorting, and it's just wonderful because the gentlemen at the warehouse, they deliver the uniforms after we pack them, and you know they're ready to go, and that's a huge endeavor. Huge.
Right, and we do depend on partners like you, so we're glad to step in anywhere we can. And you know, the fact that we did have some space at the uniform was, or at the warehouse was wonderful because, like you said, it's grown so big. Most people aren't going to have the space in their house anymore. Certainly our schools don't have the space to house it anymore. So it's a great partnership that works that way.
Yeah, it's just been really significant between Old Navy and the Board of Ed and the warehouse. And you know, Old Navy, their employees deliver the stuff to the warehouse, and then the warehouse, after we pack, delivers them to the schools. We wouldn't be able to do this program if it wasn't for
Well, how can community members, if they're hearing about this, what's something they could do to help with the program?
they could join and
Yes.
volunteer. We absolutely are always looking for volunteers, and you know, we get new volunteers every year, but every year we lose some because they move south or whatever.
Right.
So we're always looking for new volunteers,
Yeah.
and anyone who wants to donate, whether it be $10 or you know, or a significant amount of $50 to buy a uniform. We, you know, we just welcome whatever.
Yeah.
So,
And you know, the more we get, the more schools we can get. We kind of always wanting to take on new schools, but we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. So
Right.
if we see the funds coming in, then we'll definitely do that, which is great.
That is significant because we see in our county, you know, we do have poverty amongst
Right.
a lot of wealth, but
Yes.
we do have those students and families who really do need help. And without organizations like yours and partnerships like yours, we really don't have a solution for that. You know, the system doesn't have money built in, unfortunately, for clothing or uniforms or things like that. So
Right.
it's important that everyone who can does participate and help.
Right.
right.
In that
and
way.
Yes. But I mean, for us, I think mostly we need volunteers and we need money. I mean,
Right,
that's the
exactly.
two things. We can do the rest of the work
Yeah.
and, you know, make it happen. But, you know, bringing it all together is the challenge.
Well, because of all the good work that you do, you have been nominated as a Business Partner of the Year. So tell us a little bit about that and what that means to your group. And for people who don't know, Business Partner of the Year, that's something that Anne Arundel County Public Schools has lots of partners, and so people can nominate organizations that really are making a difference in the lives of our students every day. So that's what the program is. So.
Well, we are really honored to be one of the organizations nominated for that, and it was a real surprise, and we're looking forward to the dinner at the end of April, and whoever wins, we're just excited to be there and be part of it, and just grateful for the nomination. It was a real little treat. You know, we don't expect any kind of reward for what we do. We're just excited about doing it, but it was wonderful to hear that news.
Well, I think it speaks volumes to the need that we have, but then that we have these community members out there like you guys and all of the members that you have at the Assistance League of the Chesapeake really doing that hard work, because we need people in our schools that help us on a regular basis. And from the puppet shows to reading to students to providing uniforms, and I know it goes way beyond that, because students, once you get that personal relationship with a volunteer, and the volunteer knows some of the needs of the individual schools and
Yes.
students, I've seen them, you know, step up and do lots more than is actually the scope of work that maybe you were planning to do.
Yeah,
Right.
well, they just love it.
And this winter, well, actually, I think this is our second year, but when I think it was last winter, a couple of our volunteers were at the schools, and they noticed that the kids didn't have hats, or some of them didn't have gloves. You know, it was freezing out, and so it was like, okay, what can we do? So we decided last year to try to just collect hats and gloves from the volunteers, and then they asked their friends. So we were able to provide the schools with a couple hundred sets of hats and
Yeah.
gloves. This year, we then applied for a grant and from Constellation, and we got a $500 grant for hats and gloves.
Wow.
So this year, we provided almost 800 hats and gloves to the 7 schools we service. So
Yeah.
that was in addition to all the
It's a whole new,
uniforms.
every year something new creeps into our
Yes.
what we do, and it's
So,
exciting.
yeah, so one of the
Yeah.
volunteers identifies the need, and then we see if we can
What you can
meet
do
it.
about it.
Yes.
Well, tell us a little bit about your other programs that you're running, because you do other things besides just partnering with the school system. So what are some of those programs?
Well, the one that is kind of near to our hearts as well is sing-alongs. We go to assisted living, about I think 5 or 7, maybe 7
Yeah.
different assisted living places, and we do sing-alongs. And it is so rewarding, because a lot of people might be suffering from dementia, or you know, their minds just aren't what they used to be, and music just touches their souls. You can just see them coming alive, and they're just delightful stories where there was a gentleman and his wife in each of the times that we did it at this particular place, and he was okay, but she was in a wheelchair, and she really was not connecting at all with anyone. And we sang one of the oldies, I don't know, maybe Just a Song at Twilight, one of those really old songs. And she just reached up and just kissed him on the cheek. And he said to us afterwards, "That's the first time she's given me a kiss in 3 years." And it was so touching.
Yes.
And we realized what music does, you know, and they sing, and, you know, you can just see the memories flooding back. So
Right.
it's just really rewarding.
Well, that kind of really speaks to you. I mean, that's so emotional. You can see what happens right away, but you're really connecting with children from school aged right
All the way, yes.
till senior citizens, you know, at this, kind of towards the end of their life, some of them, but still bringing joy, which is really what this is all about. And I think what really probably keeps your members going. Before we finish our interview today, tell us how we can get, if we had somebody who wanted to join you, how can they become a member, or how can they make a donation to you?
Well, I believe our website will be flashed onto the screen, which is alchesapeake.org, and all the information's on there. There's also a phone number on there. And I wanted to just say that besides the work we do together, there's such a wonderful relationship with all the members. They become friends. You know, when you do things together, you kind of form bonds.
Right.
And there's a warmth and a welcome. And so if anyone needs to just enlarge their circle of friends, that's the place to do it.
Which is great to know, because I know there's lots of us looking for volunteer opportunities. So I really would hope that they would come and join you and be part of this great movement, because it really is a great organization.
It really is, yes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both for joining me today. I really appreciate having you here.
Thank you for having us, Teresa.
Yes, thank
It's
you
been
for
great.
having us. Yes.
And thank you. Until next time.
The Cafe at Maryland Hall is a collaborative venture between Anne Arundel County Public Schools and Maryland Hall for the Creative Arts. The culinary arts students of the Center of Applied Technology South not only prepare the wonderful food items, they also manage and staff the cafe. Patrons may enjoy a treat or a cup of coffee while also enjoying exhibits and performances from artists in the AACPS PVA program and local art community. This amazing collaborative partnership gives the community an opportunity to experience awesome food and customer service in a rich, artful atmosphere here in the community's Art Center, our vibrant and exciting Maryland Hall.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Porter. Anne Arundel County Public Schools Department of Transportation is raising the level of awareness for the safety of your children as we transport them to and from school. When a school bus stops to load students, as a driver, this is what you will see. At 150 feet, the bus will activate hazard lights. At 100 feet, the bus driver will activate the amber lights. They will start slowing down. At 10 feet before the bus stops, they will turn on the red bus lights. Their stop sign will come out, and students will begin to load. Once all students are on board safely, the bus driver will turn off red lights and move forward. At this time, it is safe for the motorist to resume movement.
The new kindergarten, first, and second grade curriculums are designed to engage students in a variety of learning opportunities that involve cooperation and problem solving.
What do I do?
Student discourse and structured play develop social foundations through peer interaction. This learning block promotes curiosity, imaginative thought, and responsiveness. The primary focus is on the work of young children, play. The use of tools and materials allows students to share, take turns, and develop the confidence to make effective decisions in school and in life. Ask your child how they interacted with their friends today while engaging in structured play.